He was a Chetnik, that he should be in jail.
Boško was harassed daily by angry Muslim neighbors, weary of the war and its hardships. One day in a bread line, when Boško ended up with the last loaf, tempers flared.
The people in the line didn't get any because there wasn't enough. And then one neighbor came out of the line and cursed the government and said, "How is it possible that a Chetnik can get bread and I cannot?" Boško turned back and gave her their piece of bread. That's a little bit more than half a kilo. And then came back home. Admira was crying, and he was in a bad mood.
But he had to get out one of those days, no matter how. He was in real danger because I couldn't be with him all the time. And you know how bad it is when your friend sells you out. Because Misha sold him out. It was classic.
In early May, when Boško received a summons ordering him to appear for questioning at a Muslim police station, he feared the worst. Serb traitors were often tortured and killed in police custody. And 50 years earlier, during World War II, Boško's grandfather had disappeared when he obeyed an order to report to the police. Boško had 72 hours to report, or he would be arrested. And so he decided he must leave Sarajevo.
I was begging Boško not to take Admira with him. You go alone. I was begging both of them not to go. How you lived until now, you can live. If you want, you can live here in my place. Live in my place. Don't go there. And I'd ask him, how can you take her there? You see what they are doing to the Muslim girls. You are helpless, and they can do in front of your eyes what they want. They can kill her. They can slit her throat and everything else. No, Grandma. The same way I spent so long here during the war, and nobody of hers touched me, so nobody will touch her of mine.
But Boško and Admira had already decided they would leave Sarajevo together and escape to the Serbian side.
I was so afraid. I knew terrible things were going on. Can you imagine how big that love is? And the courage that she, as a Muslim, needed to go to the Serbian side where all the Muslims were thrown out, where they take people to concentration camps, where they are raping, killing, where babies in carriages are killed. I couldn't understand how she had the courage to go.
Boško and Admira hid out at her grandmother's apartment until the gangster Čelo could arrange their escape. When Boško returned the next day to Koševo Hill, he discovered their apartment had been looted by his neighbors.
When he came back to his apartment, he called my son to see him to say goodbye, but he didn't tell him that he was going to cross to the other side. My son said to him, "Take care, Boško. You know how many friends you have, but you have even more enemies."
On May 13th, Admira and her mother baked a cake to celebrate her 25th birthday.
Boško came back in the afternoon. He yelled from the door, "Do we have any cake?" "Yes, we have fruit cake," Admira said. Boško sat at the table, took some cake and asked, "Where's the fruit?" We were all laughing. "Fruit will be next year," Admira said. So like that, they celebrated her last birthday.
On May 19th, The day they were to leave, Admira arrived early at her parents' house.
Leaving her cat was very hard. Yellow was her darling. She asked me to take care of him, to pet him like she did. He slept with her in her room, so she said, "Mom, please sleep with him so he's not alone."
That morning, Admira's mother made one final effort to persuade her daughter to stay.
And Admira said, "Mom, do you know what you are asking from me? I can't do anything else but to go with him. Go back to the past, about 30 years ago, would you have gone with Father?" I couldn't lie, even if it would have stopped her. I would have gone to the end of the world. But this is something different. This is a war. We couldn't convince her, and she didn't want to talk about it.
I didn't say goodbye to either one. To either one, I didn't say goodbye. They planned their escape without me because I disagreed. They avoided saying goodbye to me.
Back at her grandmother's apartment, Admira and Boško packed their clothing and some jewelry from Boško's family in 2 small suitcases.
She had sewn money into their clothes. I told them, "Hide your money. They can take your money, and where can you go after that? You cannot buy food, you cannot pay for a bus." And she put 3,500 Deutschmark into her waistband, and he put money in his pockets. I told him, "Boško, how can you do that just like that?" And he said, "No, nobody will do anything." He was 100% sure that everything would be more than good when he got to the other side. Before she got in the car, she waved to us. So they went like that. We stayed and cried. We waited for them to call. Waited and waited. "I'll call your grandma right away." But they never.
On the Serbian side, 2 soldiers, originally from Kosovo Hill, and old friends of Boško and Čelo, had negotiated with the gangster for the couple's escape. Sasha Bogdanović had done many deals with Čelo during the war. And Milkan Gaborović had been trying to get his relatives out of the besieged city.
I was waiting for Čelo's call, and he called me and said, "Look, I'll send you Boško and Admira now, and tomorrow at the same time, your aunt and cousin." I told him, "Give me my aunt and cousin first, and then Boško and Admira." He said that Boško had problems, that he'd gotten the call from the police, and he must send them now.
Milkan had asked me to help him because I had worked on exchanges before. He had set up everything on all front lines so that no one would open fire. That was the only condition which Čelo would let them leave.
Late in the afternoon, Admira and Boško arrived at Čelo's headquarters in Sarajevo.
Boško was a little nervous. Admira wasn't. I got it set up with our men, but I told him, wait until dark. There it's no man's land. Surrounded by 4 or 5 different forces. Satso's police, special police units, HVO, and Chetniks. And it's impossible to make a deal with all of them.
We didn't know at all that somebody was supposed to cross. That zone is prohibited from any kind of movement.
Dino Chapin was a commander of a Croatian unit allied with the Muslim army on the Sarajevo side of the front line.